I'm Jeannie Perrone, and welcome to my presentation entitled Training for Veterinary Dental Radiography Using the Interplay Model. This presentation looks at a training intervention in dental radiography. The target subject for the training is veterinary medical staff. The training intervention will develop skills that support dental radiographic capabilities and improve performance. Based on experiential learning found in the interplay model, this intervention achieves the training goals by framing and activating the experience while giving the participant time to reach a deeper understanding of the process that leads to improved retention of the material. What are the problems we are facing? In the current training environment, training is usually requested by a vendor or the veterinary clinic. Sessions are commonly face-to-face and hands-on, and they last 4 hours. Sessions covered positioning and software orientation. In the current training environment, the positioning task is demonstrated by the trainer, and the participant mimics the task and is given feedback on their attempt. Corrections can be made by the participant, and the X-ray is retaken. A needs analysis survey was sent to other veterinary dental radiograph trainers. The results showed a training gap that caused participants to be less successful during their first training and after they returned to their clinic environment. It is important to know there is a steeper learning curve to master dental X-ray positioning in the dog and cat due to anatomical obstacles. These anatomical obstacles do not exist in the human oral cavity. A performance analysis showed a lack of success during these 3 tasks. 1. Correct placement of the sensor plate. Inadequacies in identifying anatomy will cause the participant to position the sensor in the mouth incorrectly. The difficulty is the result of inadequate knowledge of anatomy or lack of attention during the training demonstration. 2. Correct angulation of the tube head. Incorrect angulation of the tube head will result in a non-diagnostic radiograph due to the tooth image being elongated or foreshortened. The challenge is translating a simplified positioning concept to hands-on training and subsequent mastery. 3. Identifying solutions to errors found on the finished radiograph. Participants become frustrated when they must repeat X-rays. Focusing a portion of the training on identifying errors improves problem-solving skills. Correctly solving the cause of the error will diminish the need to perform repeat X-rays. These 3 tasks that cause training issues were studied further, and training needed to better address the following 3 conditions. 1. How the angle of the X-ray machine affects the length of the tooth. 2. The participant needs to view an image with proper positioning, which demonstrates a typical appearance of a tooth. 3. The participant needs to evaluate their results and determine how to adjust the angle of the tube head and the location of the sensor to improve the image. The 3 conditions became the basis of the learning objectives for the course. Performance outcomes were written to ensure the training gaps are addressed and the assessments could be more accurately measured. The interplay model demonstrates that learning is best achieved when instruction is coupled with active learning. The participant activates the experience using live simulations. Live simulations are demonstrated by the trainer and performed on dental models. The participant repeats the demonstration on the dental model. The participant reflects on their outcome based on their assessment results. Since steps are repeated with each participant, step recall is embedded. Better outcomes are a result of the participant mentally working through each step of the task and analyzing their own results. But there is still the lack of mastery during the training and loss of skill after the training. A solution is to divide the training into 3 sections, with the possibility of a 4th section, which would be for continuing education. The course is divided into 3 units. 1, a pre-training session, 2, an active training session, and 3, a post-training session. The pre-training session uses asynchronous e-learning to prepare the participant for the future active training. The active training provides the participant with hands-on activities to build confidence and procedural skills in dental radiology. During the post-training session, participants will be asked to provide feedback on their experience with each phase of the training. Learner characteristics. Participants usually come from a veterinary clinic. They vary in age, education, work experience, and clinic duties. As you can see on the age ranges that I studied, the participants were in the 21 to 30-year-old range. This did explain some of the lack of success the participants were having. This age group are known as millennials or Generation Y. They tend to be avid consumers and very sociable to foster a need to belong. Millennials tend to be eager to learn, but become frustrated if the knowledge does not come quickly. When the skill for a millennial is not swiftly learned, they would sometimes not continue trying. This I have seen in my observations of previous trainings. The next graph, under education, shows the variation of education. You will see there are some that are credentialed veterinary nurses. There are some that are certified veterinary assistants, so these are assistants that have gone to school. There are in-clinic trained people. Veterinary clinics tend to hire people that are not medically trained and train them in-house. Unfortunately, there is no statistical data to support this statement other than interviewing staff members for the last 11 years. Hiring people with few medical skills means a clinic can pay their staff less than a medically trained veterinary nurse. Clinic-trained staff are not required to obtain continuing education. Any training or skills needed for the job are provided by the clinic. If a training is required, attendance is mandatory. If the staff member is interested in the training, motivation is usually high. But if they are not interested in the training, motivation can be low. High motivation can also be seen if completion of the training improves their standing in the clinic. Now, medically trained nurses can experience the same variances of motivation. If the nurse rallied the clinic to make improvements to their dental service, motivation generally tends to be high. Sometimes nurses who feel they have accomplished the dental radiology skills needed for the upcoming training will feel the training is a waste of time. Hence, we have lower motivation. Usually, motivation levels aren't visible until the day of the training. To overcome low motivation in a training situation, engaging the learner as quickly as possible with multi-sensory training is needed to maintain participant focus. Keeping participant focus increases energy, which leads to increased enthusiasm for learning. Learning objective and performance outcomes. Here is a graphic showing the learning outcomes. Each learning outcome objective is paired with the performance outcome. These outcomes will be assessed and measured during the training. If the participant is able to connect the objectives and the performance outcomes, they will achieve a deeper understanding of the process and better retain the skill set. So as we look at this graphic, let's look at the boxes on the top. So the large square box is the learning objectives. So on the top box, that would be identify the appropriate teeth, set up the correct location of the sensor. Then the performance objectives that the participant would have to follow would be, given a specific oral location to radiograph, the participant will point to the requested location on the dental model. The participant will justify the best position of the sensor plate to obtain the requested radiograph. And then the third outcome would be the participant will effectively position the plate in the dental model. Suggested performance outcomes to interplay strategies. This chart shows an example of how the interplay instructional strategies are used to improve performance success for the participant. On the left side, or the left column, is the performance outcome. The aligned interplay instructional strategy follows in the middle column. These strategies are expose, inquire, discover, create, experiment, and share. In this chart, each performance outcome uses some, if not all, of the strategies, followed by an explanation on the expected behavior of the participant. So in the column on the right, for the first performance outcome, the trainer identifies the oral anatomy structures that need to be radiographed. Then the participant recalls the location and performs the exercise. Suggested resources. Our goals are to have instructional content that enables the participant to navigate through each of the learning objectives. Each piece of content provides active learning opportunities. Active learning builds experience for the participant to ensure retention of the skill. As I mentioned earlier, the course will be divided into 3 sections with instructional materials appropriate to the subject. In the pre-training section, the focus is on preparation. This section is held through an asynchronous e-learning platform. The participant must complete the pre-training session before moving on to the active session. The course for the pre-training session has 3 units. The 3 units cover oral anatomy, examining the oral cavity on a patient dental record, and a review of basic computer skills used in word processing for the participant to prepare for software training. Each unit has an assessment, and the participant will have a chance for feedback at course completion. Active training provides skill building through interaction with the course materials and the trainer. The active training session has 5 units following the course objectives. Each objective has performance outcomes that will be assessed using rubrics, direct testing, and anecdotal records. Post-training gives the trainers time to provide feedback about the participants' performance, and the participants will also give feedback about their experience with the active training session. Design strategy and materials. The pre-training session and post-training session, with possibly a continuing education session, will be provided through an asynchronous e-learning platform. The active training session will be taught by a trainer using demonstration models. Demonstration models are defined as skulls or cadaver heads from previously euthanized fresh frozen specimens. The specimens provide a more realistic experience during participant interaction. Demonstration equipment is defined as the X-ray generator, digital X-ray digital sensor plate with corresponding software. The equipment orients the participant on safe and proper use. Video clips are used primarily in the pre-training and possibly the continuing education portions of the training. The clips are an orientation to the steps of the procedure that are performed during the active training. The future of training medical skills would be in the addition of virtual 3D simulations. This would be in addition to or in place of the demonstration models. For continuing education, this will be a great tool for follow-up with participants after training is completed. Questions could be answered and skills reviewed. Orientation to the 3D simulation could be done as part of the pre-training session. This is a table that expands to show how the connection of the learning experience with the assessment. As we have seen in a previous slide, instructional strategies for interplay will be aligned with each one of the performance outcomes. The assessments that will be used to measure the progress and success of the participants is also aligned with the learning objectives. Assessments will be carried out using direct testing with rubrics to monitor participant performance and assess their success after each performance outcome. Summative assessments will allow for the participants to be assessed and provide feedback throughout the process and after the training is complete. The results of the assessments and the feedback will be used to find further training gaps and provide data into the necessity of a follow-up training where participants could troubleshoot problems, ask questions, and practice with results. Proposed project timeline. This slide shows my projected timeline for the project. According to the slide, it will take me about 45 days to complete the project. Being a new designer, a 3 to 6 month timeline would probably be more realistic if funds could be stretched this far. Final thoughts. I am a subject matter expert in my field of veterinary dentistry. I have been a trainer for 12 years in dental radiology. Even though I was comfortable with the subject matter, I had to unlearn my work as a trainer to objectively analyze my project. I have been building up my writing skills. I have a tendency to write like I think. When handling a topic I am unfamiliar with, I will write around things. Writing for instructional design projects requires you to use clear and concise language using active verbs. I am happy to say I am making progress. My biggest learning moment was understanding the alignment between learning objectives, performance outcomes, and assessments. You must make sure that your objectives are delivered in your performance by the participant, and the participants are assessed based on those objectives. My goals from this project is to continue my studies on the use of interplay to teach medical skills. Substandard skills can mean injury to a patient. A combination of live and virtual skills plus regular practice improves retention, which brings better performance.